everyone, and welcome back to the NanoBlitz Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Edelman. I'm recording this on May 1st, the day after the draft officially ended, and I could just not wait any longer to film this. This is one of the craziest drafts I've ever seen, to be honest, from the first round to the later rounds. Absolutely insanity the whole way around, and we're going to cover all of it today because I'll be grading every single pick, every single team's overall draft grade is gonna come in this video. It may be a bit long, but I want to give every team their grade. And from first round to seventh round, we're gonna do it. We're gonna take all the picks into account when grading the teams, and we're gonna do it similar to last year, where the order is gonna be based on where they picked in the first round, but for teams like the Miami Dolphins, for example, who did not have a first-round pick due to them trading for Tyreek Hill, we're going to basically be talking about them when their pick would be. So the Dolphins would have their actual pick, which was held by the Eagles this year, was at 15. So we're going to be talking about the Dolphins at 15th. But before we get into this, let me just say this is actually an insane draft. I could not believe my eyes, honestly, when I saw this happening, especially the first round of all those trades, all those receivers being taken. I mean, A.J. Brown got traded, and we'll get more into that later, but A.J. Brown got traded. There was Hollywood Brown got traded. There was a lot of trades, not even just with players, but just with picks. An insane first round, an insane rest of the draft, and I say we just get right into it because this video is probably going to be really long. So let's start off with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are picked at, we all saw they picked at number 1 for the second year in a row, and they grabbed Travon Walker at number 1. And if you saw my post I made today grading the top 10 picks, almost a sneak peek for this episode, I was not too big of a fan of this pick. I think I gave them a C+. This isn't the pick, Jacksonville. I'm sorry. You go with Aiden Hutchinson at number 1. That's who you take. You take him over Travon Walker. I get that Travon Walker has a lot of potential, and there's been a debate about the two for a while. I honestly didn't think I didn't think they were actually gonna take Travon Walker. I know that was a rumor and everything, but I didn't think they were actually going to do it I didn't know they were actually going to be stupid and take him. I know everyone was messing around with the idea of it, but I didn't think they would actually be dumb enough to do it. And what do you know? They did. The Jacksonville Jaguars took a guy who really has not shown that he should even be a top 10 pick based on what he did in college, and it's purely a speculation play. I'm not a huge fan of it. When you're picking at number 1, you take someone, sure, you want them to have a very high ceiling, but you don't take someone that's not proven. You want to take someone that not only has a high ceiling, but someone who can contribute off the bat too, and at least will have something. Because Travon Walker, he could be terrible. It's a very risky move, especially for a franchise that honestly can't afford to make many mistakes in the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I'm not a huge fan of that pick. But what I was a huge fan of was them trading up in the first round again at pick 27 to acquire a linebacker, Devin Lloyd, who in my opinion was the best linebacker in the draft. I absolutely love that pick. Props to the Jaguars for that. And then the rest of their draft, a little quiet. They didn't have a second-round pick due to that trade. Luke Fortner, center, in the third round. Always good to get that interior offensive lineman help. Chad Muma from Wyoming. I actually really like that pick. They're really building up the linebacking core. Snoop Connor, it's whatever. I don't know why they drafted another running back. And then they went heavy on corner in the 6th and 7th round with Gregory Jr. and Montaric Brown. So overall for the Jaguars, it's hard to say because they had the selection of anyone they had their pick for anyone, any single person in the draft, and they chose Travon Walker. But I do like their Devin Lloyd pick. I do like some of their late round picks, but I also don't like some of them. I think overall I'm going to give the Jaguars a C- for their entire draft. I'm not the biggest fan of the Jaguars draft, I'm going to be honest. And moving on to number 2, we now have the Detroit Lions, who in contrast to that, I think actually had a very good draft. We all saw at number 2, they got Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan, who, in my opinion, as you just heard, probably should have went number 1. And the Lions got the steal of the draft, honestly, probably. Maybe not the steal of the draft, because there was a lot of steals in this draft, and we're going to be talking about those a lot. And I posted a couple on the Instagram, too. But Aiden Hutchinson, he was supposed to be the number 1 pick, let's all be honest here. And he's out of Michigan. He gets to stay home. He fits absolutely perfect in Dan Campbell's system. This is, in my opinion, the best scheme fit in the entire draft. It's such a perfect fit. It's such a good selection. There's nothing it just works. It's just so perfect. And then Later in the first round, we saw them trade up. I thought they were going to grab Malik Willis there, but as we saw, he fell all the way into the third round, which honestly still surprising to me. But they traded up and grabbed Jameson Williams out of Alabama, who I think that's a great addition to the team. You're really building up that offense. I don't know if Jared Goff is really the future quarterback. I mean, Lions fans, let me know. Do you guys think this dude's a superstar or something? I don't think it. I'm kidding. I don't think anyone actually thinks that Jared Goff is going to be good. Maybe he'll be a decent bridge quarterback, but he's not the future of this franchise. It's clear. But you might as well build around him just so maybe he can do something. He did make a Super Bowl in L.A., so maybe if you surround him with talent, he could do stuff. But regardless of that, you want to build it up. You want to build it up for the next quarterback that comes in. It's probably not going to be Jared Goff that takes this team to the playoffs or beyond. It's going to be probably a quarterback they draft probably next year. So they're building up for that. They already have Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams. They're establishing a strong offensive core, very strong O-line and tight end with Hawkinson, Ragnow, Taylor Decker. Overall, a strong offense. The rest of their draft, was a little overwhelming, honestly. I like the James Mitchell pickup, tight end out of Virginia Tech. I do like that pickup in the 5th round. Not big fan of the Kirby Joseph pickup in the 3rd, but their two first-round picks at 2 and 12 really carry this draft for them, which is going to give... Ooh, this one's a little tough. I think I'm going to have to give them a B+. I've seen people give them a lot higher, but I'm going to go with the B+ here. Very good draft for Detroit and a good start to their... they've been really building for a while, but a good start. The Houston Texans are next up, and what a disaster of a franchise, but they actually did a very good job at addressing some of these needs, especially compared to last year when they didn't even have their 1st or 2nd round pick. But yeah, I didn't like the Derek Stingley pick. I'll be the first to admit it. It wasn't a terrible pick, but I don't think you take Derek Stingley over Sauce Gardner. I don't even think you take a corner at number 3. There is much more valuable, I feel like, positional value if we get there. Someone like Kavon Thibodeaux at number 3 would have made more sense to me. So I'm not the biggest fan of that pick, but I'm not gonna be too critical of that because I don't think it's that bad of a pick. I do love the Kenyon Green pick at number 15, which they acquired from Cleveland, I think. And yeah, they drafted who's probably the best not interior defensive lineman because Tyler Linderbaum exists, but the best guard probably in the draft in Kenyon Green. So I love that pick. Jalen Petrie in the 2nd. I actually really like that pick too out of Baylor. One of the best safeties in the class, maybe even the 3rd best in the class. Very good. John Mechie out of Alabama, who is injured, which for some reason teams didn't want to take him. I guess I could see why, but he fell a little because he's injured. But he could be, when he comes back, he can immediately contribute in the slot for the Texans team and pair, honestly, nicely with Brandon Cooks, who just received an extension. So I like this pick. Christian Harris. Texans actually had a really good draft. I'm looking at this right now. The Texans had a good draft. You can't say that often, but the Texans had a good draft. Dameon Pierce out of Florida. I know I got some Florida fans that watch this that were interested to see where he goes. Thomas Booker. Wow, the Texans had a good draft. Honestly. Ooh, what am I going to give them? Because I didn't like their number 3 pick that much. But I really, really liked their next 3 picks in Kenyon Green, Jalen Petrie, and John Mechie. And then their other picks were pretty good too. So you know what? I'm going to give the Texans a B+ also, along with the Lions. Next up, we got the Jets, who are slowly becoming, if you watch the previous episode, they're slowly becoming one of my actually favorite teams in the league. I like the Panthers, obviously, and then I like the Dolphins too, a little. Sometimes. But the Jets, I really like some of their players, and let's just say that my episode that I came out with a couple weeks ago, talking about how the Jets are silently building a contender, in that episode I talked about how they needed to hit on their 2 top 10 picks in this draft for that prediction to be valid, that they could be a future contender. Boy, oh boy, did they do that and more. First of all, they grabbed who I think is the best corner in the draft at number 4 in Sauce Gardner. Excellent pick. They then grabbed who is considered by many to be the best receiver in the class at number 10 in Garrett Wilson. Then they traded up and capitalized on someone falling in the draft. Traded up to number 26 to grab Jermaine Johnson, who is honestly a projected top 10 pick at some points. They grabbed him at pick 26. What a first round by the Jets. Actually, what an insane first round. That alone is easily the best first round. They got 3, what I think, potential star to superstar level potential players there. And then it doesn't stop there for the New York Jets. Oh no. 2nd round. Their first pick in the second round at 36. They grabbed the best running back in the draft with Breece Hall, who, obviously people are going to say the thing about running backs, they're not valuable. They're not valuable. They got the best player at their position. They got the best player at his position at pick 36 for a team that desperately needs some offensive firepower to help with Zach Wilson. Then they grabbed Jeremy Ruckert in the third. They have a lot of tight ends already, but I still like the pick. Max Mitchell in the fourth, another good pick. And then they didn't have a lot of late round picks, but oh my god, I know it's a little early, but the Jets may have actually had the best draft out of anyone. I'm going to give them an A+. I think they might have genuinely had, we'll see before this episode, because it's not like other teams can't get an A+, but I think the Jets might have genuinely had the best draft out of anyone, and especially those first three picks are really carrying it, but I like the Breece Hall pick as well. Just overall, a great start to the rebuild, and I like being right, so hopefully these guys turn out into studs, and the Jets really do silently build a contender, as I would say it. Pick number 5, the New York Football Giants. And boy, oh boy, what an interesting draft that those New York Football Giants have. The first round, I have absolutely no complaints in the first round for the Giants. They had 2 picks in the top 7. I thought there was no way they could mess this up, but always in the back of my mind, I had the thought that the Giants were going to do New York Giants things and mess it up, but they didn't. They did not do it. Number 5, they grabbed Kavon Thibodeaux, who I think should have probably gone on the top 3 to the Texans, or at the very least number 4 to the Jets. Absolutely amazing pick. And then at number 7, they grab Evan Neal, a 6'7" monster tackle out of Alabama to bolster up the O-line, and Daniel Jones, honestly, his make or break year. 2 guys who, not even just stars, these guys are probably going to be superstars, if we're being honest. Both of these guys are probably going to be superstars. I mean, jeez, it's amazing. These guys should not be it feels weird to see a team that was able to get both of these guys in the same draft. That's how good they are. These are 2 potential top 3 level talented picks. It's insane that they were actually able to get them this early. But I absolutely love these selections. I have no complaints. But after the first round, it gets a little shaky for the New York Giants. In the second round at pick 43, they selected Wan'Dale Robinson out of Kentucky, which I'm not a fan of this pick. I think there was plenty of better receivers on the board at this point. I mean, I know the receivers went crazy in the first round, but in the second round there wasn't as much. The Giants could have done better here. I get they need a receiver. Kadarius Toney, he's already kind of I don't want to call him a bust yet, but he has not been he's been exciting to watch, but he hasn't been a success so far in the NFL outside of that one game where he almost had 200 yards, and then he got ejected for flicking someone off or something. I don't know what happened, but he got ejected. And they're already kind of shopping him, which is a little weird because he showed potential, but I guess in this new age in the NFL, you can get moved on after your first game at this point, honestly. But Wan'Dale Robinson was not a good pick. Not a good pick. Probably one of my least favorite picks of the second round. You could have got so many better receivers there. The rest of the draft wasn't that good either. I like the Daniel Bellinger pick, tight end out of San Diego State at 112 in the 4th round. But other than that, I really am not a fan of any of their other picks. Who else did they even get? Cordell Flott, Joshua Ezruda, Dane Belton. Dane Belton's a solid pick. Michael McFadden, DJ Davidson, and Marcus McKeithen and Darian Beavers are just kind of whatever picks. They're guys, I'll say that. They'll probably play a snap or 2, maybe if they're lucky. But there weren't good picks, but I can't. The first round pick should be weighted more than the later round picks, since just considering the value of them, I can't. Even though I didn't like all their other picks, just because of these first 2 picks, I'm gonna still have to give them an A-. This would probably be a C or a D, honestly, without those first 2 picks. But their first 2 picks were so good that it just carries the rest of the draft, giving them an A- on the day. So both New York teams hit it out of the park in this draft, especially in the first round. And it's looking like we're going to have a lot of future superstars out of this draft for the city of New York. Moving on to pick 6. Guess who? The Carolina Panthers. And I was pleasantly surprised. I'll say that. I was pleasantly surprised with how the Panthers conducted themselves in this draft. We didn't have a second or third round pick going into the draft, and our GM Scott Fitterer, I'm a huge fan of that guy. Say what you want about the coach, but I think our GM really has shown that he's trying to contend. He's not content with being mediocre, and he's trying to contend. And this draft was just spectacular, especially at number 6, grabbing Akeem Ekwonu, who is easily the best run blocker in the draft. Maybe not the best tackle, depending on who you ask. Him and Evan Neal are pretty much flip-flopped by a lot of people. And you grab him at 6. Because I thought they were going to reach for a quarterback here. I thought they were going to draft Malik Willis, or God forbid, Kenny Pickett. That would have been, I wanted to vomit just thinking about that. If I heard the name Kenny come out of Roger Goodell's mouth when they made that pick, I think I would have jumped into my friend's pool, honestly. I wouldn't be watching the rest of the draft. Let's just say that. But they grab Akeem Ekwonu at number 6. Spectacular pick. He's going to fill a huge need, probably the biggest need in our team besides the quarterback position at left tackle. He's going to fill that need for the next decade at least. Pair him with Taylor Moton, who's already an elite tackle, and you have an elite duo for the next couple of years. And suddenly our O-line is looking good. We added Austin Corbett in the offseason, Bradley Bozeman as well. The O-line is finally, maybe it won't be one of the worst of all time like last year. That would be great. And then in the third round, we didn't have a third round pick, but we traded back into the third round to grab quarterback Matt Corral, who, like every single other quarterback, slid. And I love this move personally because it's almost a low risk. It's a low risk play with a lot of upside and potential immediate upside, honestly. Like, when I think of this, what I first think of is, what's his name? Will Grier a couple of years ago when we drafted him in the third round. Hopefully that's not like this, but that is in the back of my mind with this selection. But Matt Corral was someone who I could have honestly seen going in the first round. I could have seen a lot of these quarterbacks going in the first round. I thought Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett did go in the first round, but I thought Malik Willis was like a top 10 lock, and we saw how that happened. But Matt Corral, I think, could have gone in the late first round, early second, and we got him in the late third, so a good pick for them. I'm happy with the pick. I got to be honest, I wasn't expecting it. I thought if we were going to trade up for anyone, it would probably be Malik Willis, but we traded up for Corral, and I'm happy with the pick. Hey, the less Sam Darnold I see next year, the better. I'll say that. Amari Barno, who is apparently one of the, I didn't do that much film on him, but he's apparently one of the fastest defensive ends in the draft, or is the fastest defensive end in the draft. So pair that with Brian Burns, who's the fastest defensive end in the NFL, and that's interesting. It's interesting. They almost have a style at edge, speed guys. Brandon Smith out of Penn State, linebacker, like the pick, solid pick. Cade Mays, I'd say a steal in the 6th. Kalen Barnes, 7th. It's just a nothing pick. Panthers overall, considering what we had going into the draft and we didn't have a second or third round pick, I don't want to sound biased, but I think I would not give this an A+, just because I wasn't a huge fan of some of the later rounds, but I would give this an A considering what we had. Keep in mind, this isn't going to be on the same level as other teams that have A, because we simply just did not have a lot of picks going into this draft because of failed trades and C.J. Henderson, who knows yet. But I would overall give this selection an overall A. Moving on to pick number 7. Who is pick number 7? We're going to be going with the Giants. So the Giants were up then, but the original pick was by the Chicago Bears. So we're going to be talking about the Bears here. Chicago Bears, they didn't have a first-round pick because I still agree with what they did last year, even if the pick turned out to be good. Acquired their franchise quarterback and Justin Fields. But my question is, what the hell are you doing to help him? Seriously. This has Sam Darnold written all over it. This literally, it's like they're trying to make Justin Fields a bust at this point. I get that the defense is not as good as it used to be, and you have to address the secondary by grabbing Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker, who are both very solid players in the second round. But are you serious where the only offensive weapon you grab Justin Fields in this draft is Velus Jones Jr. out of Tennessee in the third round? Do you really expect this guy named Velus to help your future quarterback who you spent an extra first round pick getting? Like, seriously, look at all the quarterbacks that have turned into superstars, guys like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. You need to surround them with talent for them to succeed. You can't just put someone in a terrible system like the Chicago Bears currently have and just expect them to work magic. And not every quarterback can do that. Most quarterbacks can't do that. Most good quarterbacks can't do that. You're asking a lot out of Justin Fields, and I think that's really not good for his development. But the picks were still good. They were good picks. Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker, like I said, they're good players. They're good players, but I would have just considered maybe drafting a receiver early or drafting a different receiver than freaking Velus Jones Jr. I would have drafted probably a different receiver. I don't know exactly who was available at that pick, but I know for sure there was a couple receivers taken after. Guys like David Bell even. That's just one of them. Jalen Tolbert too. There's just a couple dudes I would have just taken over him. Braxton Jones, offensive tackle. Zachary Thomas. So they did address the tackles a little. They had a lot of 6th-round picks. They had 3 6th-round picks and 2 5th-round picks. So they got some deep guys. And 3 7th-round picks. Interesting. The Bears, what is this draft? They didn't do much, but it also wasn't that bad. So I'm going to give them the classic average C for the Chicago Bears. Next up, pick number 8. I think this was originally the Broncos pick. Oh no, this is the Falcons pick. Never mind. I don't know what. That's the next pick. Falcons. You take Drake London at number 8. Already a terrible start to the draft. I gave him a D+ in the top 10. I hated that pick. That was my least favorite pick of the. That was, I think, the worst pick of the top 10. Maybe even the first round. Terrible pick. He's not even the best receiver in the class. And if you're going to take a receiver, you had the choice from any receiver. You could have chose Garrett Wilson, who was probably better. And you took Drake London, who, not only is he not as good, but he is a terrible fit with everything the Atlanta Falcons are trying to do. He is not a good scheme fit for Arthur Smith's offense. That's the main issue I have with this pick. It's not that I do think Garrett Wilson's better, but if it was the right scheme, it could make more sense to draft Drake London. But I just don't think he fits in this scheme. The rest of their draft, however, it was a solid draft. Arnold Ebiketie, I cannot pronounce his name, but Arnold Ebiketie out of Penn State. I love that pick personally. I really like that pick. Troy Anderson out of Montana, another good pick. Desmond Ritter, who the Falcons were another team who capitalized on the falling quarterbacks. The only issue I have with this pick is why Ritter over Malik Willis and Matt Corral? I get maybe they saw something in him. He is a little more NFL ready than the other two. I would have gone with the potential here and went with Malik Willis here, because Marcus Mariota is probably going to start next year regardless. I don't think Ritter's going to start next year. You might as well just take the guy in the 3rd round that has potential to be the next Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen at his ceiling. I would just take the guy at the higher ceiling, but it's still a decent pick. I probably would have gone in a different direction, but I'm not going to fault them too bad for that. Then they grabbed, I didn't even notice this, they got Tyler Algier out of BYU. That's another good pick. And then nothing pretty much for the rest of the draft. That 1st-round pick is holding down their draft so much. If it was just the 1st-round pick, it'd be like a D, but they had some very solid mid-round picks. The late-round picks were a bit of nothing, but probably going to go with I'll probably go with a C+, because I did like their mid-round picks for the Falcons. C+ for the Atlanta Falcons. And now we're moving on to the Broncos pick. It's a little confusing because the Seahawks originally picked at 10, but they ended up picking at 9 because they traded with the Broncos, who picked at 9. So it's the Broncos that we're talking about right now. I'm sorry if that did not make sense. Just listen. We're gonna talk about every team. Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos, they did not have a 1st-round pick because they traded for Russell Wilson. They grabbed Nick Bonito in the 2nd round. I like that pick, especially since it was the last pick of the 2nd round. I like that pick. At number 80, they grabbed Greg Dulcich, presumably the Noah Fant replacement. I like that pick. And then the rest of the draft, Montreal Washington, a decent pick. Luke Wattenberg, the center out of Washington. They grabbed a couple Wisconsin guys in the 6th and 7th round, and Matt Henningsen and Faion Hicks. This is another one of those drafts that's just a nothing draft, honestly. I'm going to give them a C+ as well. I'm going to give them a C+ as well because I really like the Nick Bonito pick. He's going to make an immediate impact on that defense. Pair him with guys like Bradley Chubb. Von Miller's not there anymore, but actually, wait, this pick was from Von Miller. That's funny. That's actually really funny. I didn't even notice that when I was first looking at this. Yeah, so they basically just replaced Von Miller with the pick they traded, like they acquired from the Rams to get him. I like the Broncos draft, but it's nothing special. It's a C+. Now moving on to the Seattle Seahawks, who definitely had one of the more interesting drafts. I'll say that. Number 9, you grab Charles Cross, who was one of the big 3 offensive tackles. I'm never going to complain about a team taking a tackle. That was a good pick. That was a very good pick. You take your franchise left tackle when you can get it. It's one of the most valuable positions in the NFL, and we've seen time and time again, Carolina Panthers, how important it is. Boye Mafe in the second round, also an amazing pick, but Kenneth Walker at 41, I feel like this pick got a lot more hate than it should have. This isn't like a terrible pick. People act like their running back core is like elite or something. Chris Carson, there's rumors of him literally getting cut before training camp. He might not even be on the team at the start of the year. He's not that good when he's healthy, but he's been injured a lot. And Rashawn Penny had 4 good games last year. He's on another prove-it deal almost. He's not that good. He could be good, but we don't know that. Kenneth Walker could be the true running back 1 in Seattle. It could be the first true running back 1 they have since Marshawn Lynch. And I don't think it's the best pick, but it's definitely not the worst pick. It's definitely not as bad as people are saying. They also grabbed Abraham Lucas in the 3rd round to pair of the newly acquired Charles Cross. You got a great tackle duo in Seattle, it seems, for the first time ever. It's unfortunate that the guy they're going to be blocking, the guy that they're going to be blocking for is mostly known for singing instead of playing football. So he's not good, but you have the tackles you have the keys almost for the future. You have good receivers too in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, who has been under a little of trade rumors. You have a solid offense brewing in Seattle. You just need to get your next quarterback because Russell Wilson carried this team. And let's be honest, they're winning. They're probably going to win 3 games this year. This draft, Kobe Bryant, not the basketball player. That's actually a good pick. I actually like that pick. Tariq Woolen, another good pick. They really addressed the corners in this draft as well as they addressed specific position groups because early on they addressed the tackles with Cross and Lucas. Then they addressed the corners later in the draft with Kobe Bryant. And then they grabbed Bo Melton and Derek Young, both 2 receivers in the 7th round. I like the Seattle draft. I'm going to give them a solid B. Solid B for Seattle. Next up on the list, we have the... this is where all the trades started. This is where all the trades started. I think we're talking about the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah. We're talking about the Vikings here, and let's see. The Vikings had a weird draft because they traded back with a divisional rival. They traded back with their divisional rival and let them get the receiver of the future, and they didn't even get much in return. They got like an extra mid-round pick. You don't trade back that far to the last pick of the 1st round just to do that. And they got Lewis Cine, who is not a bad pick at all for that time. I actually think that's a good pick. Andrew Booth Jr., steal of the draft. If you saw my post on Instagram, steal of the draft. He should have been a top 25 pick. I absolutely love the pick. That's definitely going to help their grade. And then Ed Ingram, decent selection. A couple bad selections. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I don't like a Caleb Evans out of Missouri. I don't like that pick at all. I also don't like the Easy Otomel pick out of Minnesota. Even though he's a homegrown talent, I don't like the pick. I don't like either of those picks in a row. Ty Chandler, it's whatever. You're drafting a running back. You have Jalen. You have Dalvin Cook, Nick Muse. The rest of the draft is kind of just nothing. But I really want to focus on those first 2 picks that they had. Honestly, first 3 because Ed Ingram's a pretty good pick. Booth Jr. is really carrying this draft. The trade does hurt though. The trade does hurt. It's not even just their selections because the trade's gonna hurt their grade. I'm gonna give them. I'm gonna give them a C-. I'm gonna give the Minnesota Vikings a C-. This would be a lot. The only pick that I really liked was Andrew Booth Jr. Lewis Cine I did like, but it wasn't anything special. You probably could have got him early in the 2nd round. It wasn't a reach by any means, but it just wasn't anything special. And then the trade, all these late round selections that, in my opinion, really weren't that good. It really brings down the Vikings' grade to a C-. Next up, we got the. I think I just went a little out of order. Shoot, yeah, I went out of order. But next up, because I was just talking about pick 12, where the Vikings traded with their division rival, which is still weird to me. Division rival Lions, and then the Saints, the pick before that, which I should have been talking about, traded up. Oh, who did they trade up with? The New Orleans Saints. They traded up with. Washington. Washington. That's who it was. Okay. Washington football team. Wait, no, never mind. Washington Commanders. Excuse me. The Washington Commanders. Jahan Dotson at number 16. I like that pick, especially since they traded back and they were still able to get him. I like that pick. Vidarian Mathis out of Alabama. Outstanding pick. Are you serious? Second round for him? Great. Brian Robinson. Great. Percy Butler. Sam Hall. Steal in the 5th round. In the 5th round, you get one of the top quarterback prospects who really wasn't able to show his true worth out of North Carolina and still has all that potential. Very mobile quarterback. And who knows, people do actually compare him to Mitch Trubisky, not even just because they're coming out of the same school. People do compare him to Mitch Trubisky. Honestly, though, if you can get someone like Mitch Trubisky in the 5th round, is that really that bad? Especially if he doesn't have all that pressure on him that he had for being the 2nd overall pick in Chicago. This could turn into a really nice deal for the Washington Commanders. They also got Chris Paul. I don't know what it is with former basketball players, or not former. That guy's current basketball players being drafted in the NFL. But Chris Paul apparently is leaving the playoffs in Phoenix to join the Washington Commanders. So congratulations to him. Washington overall, though, I actually really like this draft class, especially their first 3 picks, and the Sam Howell pick is great. I'm gonna give them an A-. I really like this draft. Honestly, I could even consider moving this up to I think I'm going to move this up to a regular A, actually, because Jahan Dotson, especially with all the receiver craze, you were still able to get him. Good pick. And Vidarian Mathis, they're easily their best pick. Brian Robinson could be an absolute beast in the NFL, for being honest. Day one. That is a guy who day one could be a beast. I'm giving Washington an A, yeah. Moving on to pick 14 now, we have the Baltimore Ravens. Oh boy. Baltimore, they always do it. Baltimore always finds a way to win the draft. There's literally 3 things that I guarantee in life. Death, taxes, and the Baltimore Ravens winning the draft. They actually do it every year. And let's look at their picks for this year. Number 14, starting it off with Kyle Hamilton, who was a top 5 projected pick. I never thought he was going to go that high because he's a box safety, and we've seen how box safeties, like superstar box safeties, work on the NFL. Not to say that Jamal Adams is bad, but you wouldn't want to spend a top 5 pick on someone like that. He's going to be amazing in Baltimore. It is scary to think of how good their defense is going to be when you pair him with someone like Marcus Williams, Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters. Oh my goodness. Patrick Queen too, and not to mention David Ojabo, who unfortunately tore his Achilles when working out for the draft. But this could be a steal. This could be a steal for the future. Hopefully he can regain his athleticism, and if he's able to do that, he could prove why he was originally a top 15 pick and one of the highest projected. He was probably the highest projected edge rusher outside of that big 3 of like Travon, Kavon, and Aiden Hutchinson. David Ojabo was looking out from under, kind of. Ravens, I don't know how they do it. Travis Jones in the 3rd round. Daniel Falele in the 4th. Charlie Collier in the 4th. How do they keep on getting away with this? Seriously. How do the Ravens keep on getting away with this? Isaiah Likely in the 4th. A+, easily. Easily for the Ravens. This isn't even... I would honestly say this is probably better than the Jets. Jets had a really good draft, and I love them. I love the Jets. I don't love the Jets. They're like my 3rd or 4th favorite team, but I'm rooting for the Jets. And I'm still going to admit that the Ravens had a better draft class. It's not even that close, to be honest. Kyle Hamilton and Linderbaum in the 1st is honestly enough to justify that. And you combine that with Ojabo and Travis Jones, and A+ for the Ravens. Next up, we got Houston Texans. They were not picking there originally. Houston Texans, they had that pick from... Oh, this is Miami's pick. Yeah, this is Miami's pick. And talk about a nothing draft from Miami, who, I wasn't really expecting them to do much. They have Tyreek Hill. If you're a Dolphins fan and you're upset about this draft, go watch some Tyreek Hill highlights of him burning people every single play. Trust me, it'll make you a lot more happy. Channing Tindall, not a bad pick at linebacker out of Georgia, and I don't have a problem with that. Eric Uzukanma, I gotta be honest, I've never heard of that guy. Cameron Good, a solid pick. That's a solid pick. They definitely went heavy on the linebackers. They only had 4 picks, though, and 2 of them were in the 7th round, so they couldn't really do much. They took a quarterback in the 7th round, I guess backup quarterback? Why not? You already have Teddy Bridgewater and Tua. This is just nothing. This is nothing. They did not get better in the draft. This is a D+ probably. But it also isn't factoring in the Tyreek Hill trade. So, this grade is a little misleading because although Dolphins fans, I know there's a lot of Dolphins fans that watch this podcast. Dolphins fans, you didn't get better in the draft. I'll admit it. You got Tyreek Hill though, so go watch that to cheer you up after you get a D+ from me. Next up, number 16. Ooh, flying through these. That was where Washington actually picked. And who did they trade back with? They traded back with the Saints, but the Saints this pick was traded so many times. It went from the Commanders actually made the pick, but New Orleans traded it to the Commanders, and Philadelphia was the team who traded it to New Orleans, but Philadelphia acquired this pick from Indianapolis for Carson Wentz. Yeah, try to wrap your head around that. So we're gonna be talking about We're gonna be talking about Indianapolis here. Yeah, Indianapolis is we're gonna be talking about here. Who honestly quietly had an underrated draft. I know they didn't have their first round pick because of the failed, absolutely abysmal Carson Wentz experiment, but they still made things work. They grabbed Alex Pierce in the second round into Cincinnati. I really like that pick. Jelani Woods, who was considered by some to be a top tight end in the draft in the third. Bernard Ryman, I don't know how he fell. I don't even know how he fell to the third. I thought he was going in my mock. I had him going in the first round. Nick Cross, a solid pick. Alex Ogletree, another tight end. They really loaded up on these tight ends. I like this Colts draft. I'm going to give them... And I didn't spend that much time talking about them, but it's just the definition of a solid draft. It's not like some of these other drafts where it's just like solid, like C. No, this is a solid, good draft. This is A- for the Indianapolis Colts. Now we're going to finally move to Philly, who originally had 3 first-round picks, but narrowed it down to 1. Yeah, they actually narrowed it down to 1. That's hilarious. And with that 1 pick, they drafted Jordan Davis, who, as I said in a previous episode, is what I would call a 300-pound unicorn, which you don't see many of, especially in the wild. But Jordan Davis, easily the best nose tackle, defensive tackle, whatever you want to call it in the draft. He's going to make not even just an immediate impact in Philly, but he's going to have great mentoring from Fletcher Cox, who he could really turn Jordan Davis. When you have strong mentorship like that at your position, it really helps you develop and just overall progress in your career. And I think that's what's going to happen to Jordan Davis as he develops into what I think is going to be a spectacular player. Cam Jurgens, center, good pick in the second. In the third, they got what some would consider, and what I would honestly personally agree with, Nakobe Dean in the third, one of the biggest steals of the draft. This is someone who, in my opinion, was the second best inside linebacker in the entire draft. You got him in the third round. Pair him with former Georgia teammate Jordan Davis. Oh boy. Philly, good job. The rest of the draft, just a couple 6-rounders, Kyron Johnson and Grant Calicetra. Philly, you get an A- from me as well. I like the draft, Philly. Keep it up. Next up, we got, what's after Philly? Ooh, are we at the Chargers already? Yeah, we are. Yeah. Los Angeles Chargers. They got not necessarily a steal, but they got a good pick. They got a good pick in the first round. Zion Johnson. It's not a flashy pick or anything. You already had one of the best O-lines in the league. Why not make it better? That's simple. Grab Zion Johnson in the first. J.T. Woods in the third. They traded the second for Khalil Mack. Isaiah Spiller in the fourth. Take off some of that workload from Austin Eckler, so he doesn't get he doesn't get hurt. That's something honest. I don't know why I just blanked for a second. But I think that's something that's going to happen in the future of the NFL. I think that teams are going to start bringing in almost a second running back, and we're kind of already seeing this this is a good example, Isaiah Spiller. Teams are going to start bringing in kind of a second running back that's going to get a lot of snaps. And most teams already do this, but there's a couple teams like the Panthers that were late to the times, and honestly the Giants too. They're going to start bringing in these running backs to almost like in baseball when you have the relief pitcher. I think that's what's going to start happening in the NFL. We saw that with the Panthers bringing in Donta Foreman out of Tennessee, and I think that's going to be a trend in the NFL. But going back to the Chargers draft, this isn't another one where it was just completely average. So I'm going to give them a C. I like the Zion Johnson pick. I like the Isaiah Spiller pick. JT Woods is all right. All the other ones, Jasir Taylor, decent pick. Dwayne Leonard, another decent pick. These are all just decent picks. Nothing stands out to me really. So That's why they're going to stay at the C grade for the Los Angeles Chargers. So I was just looking at who like the next team was going to be up was, and I just realized I forgot about the Cleveland Browns. I don't know how, but we got to talk about them. Cleveland Browns. You traded for Deshaun Watson, obviously. There's not a lot to talk about, but we got to talk about every team. That's literally the point of this episode. They grabbed David Bell in the third round, along with their oddly 3 third round picks. They grabbed David Bell. They drafted a kicker in the first round. They took the first kicker off the board, so congratulations to them. You win a prize, Cleveland. Congratulations, Cleveland. Your city finally won something. Jerome Ford, I guess draft another running back. You have Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, and Dearness Johnson. Not sure if I understand that. They drafted Isaiah Thomas, another NBA player. Actually, 2 NBA players. 2 NBA players, so that's technically the 4th NBA player that's been drafted. Cleveland, I don't know what grade to give you. You traded for the massage man, so I guess you can have your props for that. This draft, it gets a D+. It's similar to Miami. You guys did not do anything. You didn't do anything, Cleveland. And honestly, I see why I forgot to talk about you now. You guys are a poverty city and a poverty team. So, sorry for the Cleveland diss. I don't know why I had that in me to diss Cleveland. Next up, we got New Orleans Saints, who I've actually been meaning to talk about. New Orleans Saints, they traded up in what was, in my opinion, one of the most shocking moves of the first round, because they traded up at pick 11. I'm like, me and Ethan were like, they're going quarterback here. They're going with Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett. Clearly, that did not happen. They trade up and grab Chris Olave, who was about the last person I would expect, but the more I look at this pick, the more I like it. I did not like this pick at first. I was like, what are you doing, New Orleans? He's not even the best receiver available. I would have taken Jameson Williams, who went off the board a pick later. I think Jameson's a better player, but this pick isn't that bad, to be honest. 19, they grabbed Trevor Penning, who, if you've seen anything about him, you'll know that he definitely needs a lot of polishing in the NFL, to say it lightly. There is literally clips where this man is throwing around an edge rusher from the defense into his own quarterback. I mean, that's one way to injure a quarterback. I'll say that. Jameis Winston's recently repaired torn ACL is not going to be a huge fan of that technique. What do you even call that? The ambulance? Is that what that technique's called? I honestly don't know. It's a very interesting technique by Penning. I'm curious to see how he performs at the NFL level using that technique. Other than, like, in all seriousness, though, Penning does need a lot of polishing. He's a very aggressive player. He gets a lot of penalties, but the potential is obviously there, and New Orleans saw it. They're going to try to replace Teron Armstead, who recently went to Miami, with Penning. I like the pick, even though it's a kind of a controversial pick, due to him just being such a raw prospect. Alontae Taylor, I'm not a huge fan of this pick. I think this was a bit of a reach in the second round. And then DeMarco Jackson and Jordan Jackson, the 2 Jacksons out of Appalachian State and Air Force. Just 2 more nothing picks, I'd say. They didn't have a lot of picks. They had actually forfeited one because of a COVID violation. I do not know if that happened to any other team, but it happened in New Orleans. I think it was because they threw that huge party in the locker room after they won. The game Jameis got hurt, they threw that party in the locker room, and I just remember the video of Jameis dancing with the crutches. That's your guy's starting quarterback next year. Hopefully he doesn't throw 30 interceptions. If he doesn't, you guys should honestly be a decent football team that could sneak into the playoffs. Chris Olave, I like the addition after much thought about it. One of the best route runners in the draft. Penning, like I said, could work out, could not. I'm going to give this a B+ grade for me. No, I'm going to give this a solid B. Solid B. I'm taking it down a little just because they really didn't have that much picks. I'm not going to hold that against them, but I didn't like some of their late round picks. I'm bringing it down to a B. And then finally, we get through this New Orleans stretch with all the trades, and we can finally move to the first quarterback, and only quarterback for that matter for a while, Pittsburgh Steelers, drafting Kenny Pickett, the pick quarterback, at pick 20. They get the homegrown talent. If you guys have been watching, you know that I love when teams get the homegrown talent. Makes me happy. It's just a good thing to see, and I don't think Kenny Pickett's that good of a player. He'll be good in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin is easily one of the best coaches in the league. He knows how to develop his players. He does not put up with any bullshit. I mean, Kenny Pickett's not like a locker room problem or anything. Not like their former players, Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. He's not a locker room problem, honestly, at all. I don't know why I'm bringing this up. But what I'm saying is, not so much the locker room aspect, but I think that even if he has some flaws in his game, such as the fact that he fumbles a lot, Mike Tomlin, I think, will be able to coach him through that. And I don't think he'll ever be a superstar quarterback. I'm going to be honest. He could be a decent starter, though, for the next decade even. I like the pick by Pittsburgh. Just get your quarterback. Trubisky's not the answer. I'm happy they addressed the quarterback position because I honestly thought they were going to try to see like Trubisky for like a year. It was a good decision to at least bring someone in. Then in the second round, they grabbed George Pickens. Ooh. Steelers had an underrated draft. George Pickens out of Georgia, who fell a little. This is someone who is in the exact same mold. Honestly, I couldn't see George Pickens going into any other team, besides maybe Green Bay. But this is just such a perfect pick for the Steelers. This is a guy who plays very similarly to how they have those other receivers in like Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson and Juju Smith-Schuster. And I know Juju isn't on the team anymore, but they're very different players, those three I just named. But they all kind of play similar roles, and I think George Pickens will fit right in this wide receiver scheme. There are a bunch of guys who, they're good receivers, but they're never going to be one of those top 15, top 20 players. They'll still be very good, and they work well together. George Pickens, I love this pick, and I love DeMarvin Leal in this third round, too. That's a great pick. Calvin Austin in the fourth, too. If you saw my Instagram, I actually did a player analysis on him. I love their first. I love their first four picks. They drafted the fullback at 6. I thought they had T.J. Watt's brother and J.J. Watt's brother. I like it, Pittsburgh. You're not gonna get the A+ from me just because I don't like some of your late rounders. Actually, yeah, I'm not giving them the A+. They're gonna get the solid A. Pittsburgh Steelers get a solid A. I did not remember them having this good of a draft. This is why you just gotta have it all in front of you when you look, because I would have never thought about this. I would have probably given them like a C or a B, but no. The Pittsburgh Steelers get an A from me. After a very underrated draft, honestly. I don't even hear anyone talking about this. That's crazy. Steelers had a really good draft, and that's such a good organization, to be honest. Same thing with them and the Ravens. They always win the draft every year. They did it again this year. Moving on to pick 21, where the New England Patriots were picking. They traded it to the Chiefs in a weird decision, considering Trent McDuffie was on the board, and the Patriots just so happened to need a corner after one of the best corners in the league that was on their team left them. So, if you're the Patriots, what do? We need a corner. One of the best corner prospects in the draft has fallen right into our laps. I think we should trade down. I think we should trade down and draft a Division II guard who's 25 years old. I think that's a good decision by Bill Belichick. But you know what Patriots fans are going to say? Trust Bill. He knows what he's doing. Bill does not know what he's doing. He's never been good at the draft. He should not be the GM. I'm sorry. He should not be the GM anymore. He's not good at drafting. He finds guys late. But these early picks, he never hits on these early picks. I don't know why he's still controlling the draft. Like, seriously, let someone else control the draft and you'll get good picks. And then let Bill do like the 5th, 6th, 7th, and undrafted free agents. He'll find superstars there. Just let him do that, but give the 1st and 2nd round and the 3rd round to someone else. Because this is unacceptable. This is a team who got, honestly, bitched around by the Bills last year. In the playoffs, they lost by like 30 points, and the Bills literally had a perfect offense scoring on every drive. So when that happens to you, you got to rebuild and reload, and the Patriots simply didn't do that. Cole Strange is not going to help you take back the division from Buffalo. I don't think anyone they drafted could have, honestly. You got to at least put up a fight, though, New England. It's not like you're tanking or something. You're not going to tank with Bill Belichick. You have a solid quarterback in Mac Jones. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but he's a solid quarterback. Cole Strange, I just don't like that pick. And I've heard some people try to justify it. I don't like the pick. I do not like the pick. I also don't like Tyquan Thornton in the 2nd round. Plenty of better receivers on the board there. There's at least 3 or 4 that are better. Marcus Jones, not a bad pick, but it's almost like they tried to fill the hole that J.C. Jackson left with that, and they just could have done so much better. They should have gotten Trent McDuffie in the 1st round, or Andrew Booth, like I've been mocking since December. Pierre Strong Jr., only one other picks that I actually really, really like. My opinion, the running back 2 in the entire class. Got him in the 4th round. He'll be a stud in New England with that backfield. Bailey Zapp in the 4th round. Doesn't make sense to me. I guess you want a backup quarterback, but you do you, New England. This was not a good draft. This was a solid D- for New England. The only reason this isn't an F is because of Pierre Strong. Terrible, terrible draft for the New England Patriots. Thankfully, though, They suck now. I'm very happy about that. Next up, we got Green Bay picked here. They took this is Oakland, not Oakland. That was a couple years ago. Las Vegas. This was Las Vegas' pick. They didn't have a first round. Obviously, they traded, I think, their first and second round. Yeah, they traded their first and second round for Davante Adams. And they drafted Dylan Parham in the third round, trying to rebuild that O-line, which John Gruden last offseason just, for no reason, dismantled. They're still feeling the effects of that. I don't think I'll ever understand what John Gruden was doing his last year in Oakland. He just completely traded the entire O-line because the Raiders in 2020 had one of the best O-lines in the league. And then that offseason, they just traded all of them, and they still tried to contend. I never understood that. So I guess you kind of rebuild that with Dylan Parham. I love the Zamir White selection in the fourth because if you guys haven't heard, the Raiders actually did not pick up Josh Jacobs' fifth-year option, former first-round pick. So it's looking like he's going to walk after this year. I believe that actually, is the fifth-year option, I think it ends next year, yeah. So they might be in need of a running back. And Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake have both struggled with injuries too. So it makes sense to me to grab Zamir White. Even if he doesn't play immediately, he's going to work his way into that backfield, I think. But I would not want to touch any of those guys in fantasy. I had Josh Jacobs this year. And we'll be coming out of our fantasy episode later in the offseason. I always look forward to that. Would not touch that, though. Neal Farrell Jr., that's a pretty underrated pick. I like that pick. They addressed the D-tackle of 2 back-to-back picks, grabbing him and Matthew Butler. C- for the Raiders. Another nothing draft. A lot of these teams that don't have a first-round pick, or a lot of them don't have a second-round pick either, they can't do much. Like, I try not to take that into account, but really, what are they supposed to do? Like, you got Davante Adams, you got Tyreek Hill, but you can't really do anything in the actual draft. So, C- for the Raiders, but they did get Davante Adams, so I guess that makes up for it. You got the best receiver in the league. It makes up for it. Buffalo Bills had the next pick. There were so many. It's hard to keep track of this. There were so many trades. Oh yeah, this was the Hollywood Brown pick that Arizona gave Baltimore, and then Buffalo traded with Baltimore to get this pick. This is so complicated. I forgot Hollywood Brown got traded. This was such an insane day. I don't even think I remember to talk about the AJ Brown trade. I think I did that at the start, but AJ Brown, I'm still in awe of that happened. Jeez. Oh, no, I haven't talked about the Titans yet. I'm confusing myself. Let's get back to Arizona, who, in my opinion, had one of the worst off seasons. Their draft was not that bad, but actual free agency was very, very bad. But they grabbed Hollywood Brown in the first round. And they didn't grab him in the first round. What am I saying? They didn't grab him in the first. They traded for him in the first round. I guess they grabbed him. All I'm saying is, Arizona, what the hell? What are you doing? Why did you trade a first-round pick for Hollywood Brown? A receiver who has consistently struggled with drop issues, even when he has an elite quarterback. And yes, I said elite quarterback with Lamar Jackson, who not only, to a lot of casual fans, can not only just run the ball, but yeah, he can throw the ball too. He can do that. Yeah, he threw 40 touchdowns in a season. He can do that. What makes you think he's going to succeed with the midget Kyler Murray? Seriously. He's not going to be good there. I really don't like that, and I'm going to be factoring that into the grade. Trey McBride, though, that's a great pick. I have no problems with that. Miles Sanders, that's a great pick. Cameron Thomas, just eh. Rest of the draft, they got Marquise Hayes in the 7th. That's a decent pick. It's hard to factoring in the Hollywood Brown trade. This is like a D+. This is like a D+ for the Cardinals, factoring the... Yeah, I'm going to give the Cardinals a D+ just because of the Hollywood Brown trade. Their draft really wasn't that bad. I'm just not a huge fan of that trade. I don't think Hollywood Brown is as good as people say. I get he's fast, but his drop issues, receivers should just be automatic that way. You should be working on the other stuff. You shouldn't have issues with drops. That's what always gets me about receivers, and I would not want to trade for someone like that. Next up, after Arizona, we have the Dallas Cowboys. Ooh, Cowboys. I remember they were trying to trade up for a little. I don't think they ever actually got that done. Yeah, they drafted Tyler Smith. Yeah, I remember this. This was a weird pick. The Cowboys are known for developing O-linemen, but usually when they get their O-linemen, it's at they usually get them at the top of the draft. Guys like Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, Tyron Smith. They usually get these blue chip prospects that they know are going to be good. But Tyler Smith is not one of those. He could still be good, don't get me wrong. And the Cowboys, I'm sure, will be able to develop him. But he's more of a raw prospect. I don't think he's going to play year one. Maybe even for part years. He's going to take a while to develop. He's a very raw player, similar to Penning almost. A little different issues. He needs to develop. I think the Cowboys can do it, but I just wanted to point out that it's very different than some of the other picks they've had. Because I've heard people say, like, oh, this guy's going to be the next Tyron Smith. No, they're very different players, and you got to take that into it. They're going to develop differently. Tyron Smith and guys in like Zach Martin were good from the start. Tyler Smith, who I know sounds very similar to Tyron Smith, so it's a little bit confusing, he's going to take a while to develop. Otherwise, Sam Williams out of Ole Miss, this is an epic. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I do love the Jalen Tolbert pick at 88. I think he's better than a lot of guys. Like the guy the Giants took, Rendell Robinson. Jalen Tolbert's a better player than him. It's that simple. He's explosive, slot receiver. He'll replace Cedric Wilson, who left for Miami. I like this pick. Pair him with Gallup and CeeDee. Oh yeah, they lost Amari too. So yeah, they needed a receiver and they got it. Yeah. Oh, they got Damon Clark too in the 5th. I like that pick. Dallas, though, I would have liked to see them focus more on the present because they got a lot of guys like Tolbert. Tolbert could be effective, but like Tyler Smith, I would have drafted someone that's more NFL ready, personally, just because they're a team that's clearly trying to contend. So overall, I'm going to give this a B- for the Cowboys because I do like some of their other picks. I like the Damon Clark pick a lot, and I do like the Jalen Tolbert pick. Next up, after the Cowboys, we have this is the Baltimore Ravens pick, but as we remember, they traded up in the first round to come back to this spot, and they got this is from Buffalo. Did we already talk about Buffalo? No, we didn't. This is Buffalo's pick, and they got Kaiir Elam out of Florida at pick 23. People didn't like this pick for some reason because they think that since Buffalo plays a lot of man-to-man coverage, that Kaiir, who is a very zone-oriented corner, is not going to succeed. What are you guys talking about? He'll succeed no matter what. With Buffalo's developmental crew, honestly, not even just quarterbacks, for everyone, he will succeed. He will succeed. Don't worry. Even if they run a little more zone than the average team, even if they run a little more man than the average team, Kaiir will succeed, and maybe that'll give him an opportunity to develop his man coverage. Who knows? James Cook in the 2nd round, that's a bit of a reach, but they had to get one of the running backs. Khalil Shakir in the 5th round. That guy's explosive. He could... I feel like that's the type of dude who is going to have a touchdown in the playoffs or do some like Gabe Davis type stuff that happened last year. He's the type of dude who could just like explode like one game in the playoffs. They grabbed the best punter, Matt Ariza, in the 6th round, who for some reason was not the first punter taken, even though he's like the greatest punter according to Pat McAfee. Christian Benford, Luke Teneda, Balin Spencer. Bunch of late-round guys that may or may not play. Buffalo, I liked your guys' draft last year. I really liked Buffalo's draft last year because they grabbed Rousseau in the 1st and a couple other dudes. I'm not feeling Buffalo's draft this year. C- for Buffalo. I'm not a huge fan. I like the Kaiir pick, just best player available, to be honest, and they do need secondary. I think the James Cook is a reach, and the rest of the draft's kind of just nothing. But it is the Buffalo Bills, though, so they'll still be good next year. They'll be fine. They have the demigod Josh Allen. Next up was the Jets picking Jermaine Johnson, but we already talked about them. Who did the Jets trade with? The Jets traded with Tennessee. Oh, we finally get to talk about Tennessee and A.J. Brown. Yay! Tennessee. Okay, we got to start this right off the bat. I don't think the trade was as bad looking back on it now. I was freaking the hell out when me and Ethan were going crazy when we first saw it. But it's not as bad as I thought. Because think about it like this. My thought process at the start of the draft, like when we were watching it, was, why would you trade away a proven star and get someone similar to him just so he could maybe have the chance of being half as good as A.J. Brown? And that's a very valid criticism. But the point is, A.J. Brown wanted that money, and he got it from Philly. He got a 4-year, $100 million extension, $25 million a year from Philly. So why not take Treylon Burks, who is a similar type player? I'm still not a huge fan of it. But this is the direction the league is going into. And actually, it's a bit of a spoiler, but probably my next deep dive, so the mini episodes, is going to be about the oversaturation in the receiver market currently. I am so excited. I already have the script and everything for that. It's going to be a great video. You guys are going to want to watch that. But going back to what I was saying, Treylon Burks, it's a good pick by itself, but when you factor in the trade, it gets a little worse. Roger McCreary, I like that pick. And then in the third round, they got Malik Willis, who has slid from a potential number 2 overall pick all the way to the third round. The Titans are going to capitalize on and honestly get their potential quarterback of the future. Easily the steal of the draft. It's an obvious steal of the draft. And then they got Kyle Phillips and Theo Jackson as well as Chance Campbell in the 6th round. Titans, I'm factoring in the trade too, so even with the trade, I'm gonna give them an A- because I think Roger McCreary and Malik Willis are great picks, and Treylon Burks isolated is a good pick, and it's still honestly decent when you factor in the AJ Brown thing. It's just not. I'm honestly being a little generous on the AJ Brown thing because I don't think it's as bad as people say, but it's still not. It still wasn't a good move in my opinion. I would have extended AJ Brown, but it's a good pick. Titans A-. Moving on after the Titans, we have the Jaguars. The Jaguars traded up with, who did the Jaguars trade up with? They got Devin Lloyd, who we talked about. Oh yeah, they traded up with Tampa Bay, the 2-time removed Super Bowl champion from a couple years ago. Tampa Bay Bucks, they grabbed Logan Hall, who I thought was a reach at the start of the 2nd round, honestly. You got him with the first pick in the 2nd round, that's a reach. There was a ton of other better guys available, but I guess this is like the Jason Pierre-Paul replacement. 2nd round, you also get Luke Goddard. That's replacing. I forgot what their tackle was that left, but one other lineman left. So they always want to protect the pretty boy Tom Brady. So yeah, Rachaad White, not a bad pick at all in the 3rd round. I actually like that. Bucks didn't do that much. They don't really need to. That's the thing. They just kind of got depth. They don't really need to do much. This is gonna get a solid C for me, or no, C-. I didn't like the Logan Hall pick, and the rest of the draft was just It's just an ant draft for the Bucks. They'll be back. They have nothing to worry about, though, to be honest. They have that division on lock, and I'm saying that as a Panthers fan. So they have the division on lock. So finally, time to talk about Green Bay. I've been waiting to talk about them. Yeah, it is time to talk about Green Bay. Number 22, they grabbed Quay Walker. I don't like the pick. It's that simple. I do not like the pick. Least favorite pick of the 1st round. I honestly like the Cole Strange pick on the Patriots better, and that's saying something considering they freaking drafted a dude out of Chattanooga, and I still like that pick better than whatever the Packers did in the 1st round. Devontae Wyatt is a lot better, and I guess it's kind of cool that you pair the 2 Georgia guys together. It sucks that they missed out on all those receivers if you're a Packers fan. But it's good that they didn't reach for a receiver. I thought that's what they were gonna do. I thought they were gonna get Pickett at 22 and just reach for like Sky Moore or someone. They didn't reach. They didn't get a good player. They got someone who could be good, but I don't think it was a good value in Quay Walker. Devontae Wyatt is a good pick. And then they finally got the receiver in the 2nd round, and Christian Watson, who that is a really good pick. I like that pick. Rest of the draft, Tariq Carpenter's a decent pick. Rasheed Walker in the 7th. Couple decent 7th round picks. They had 4 7th round picks. I don't know why. I don't know how, but they had 4 7th round picks. Green Bay, definitely not one of their worst drafts for Green Bay standards. It's not that bad compared to some of the other ones like Jordan Love in the 1st round, who's probably never going to play start another game barring injury to Aaron Rodgers. This draft gets a B- for me, just because the Quay Walker pick brings it down. But the rest of the draft it's pretty solid. I don't got any problems with the rest of the draft. Pick 29, this was where the infamous Cole Strange pick was made. But the person who originally held this pick, I think, was the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah. And let's go to them. San Francisco, they drafted Drake Jackson in the 2nd round. That's someone I could have seen going in the late 1st round. I like that pick. Tyron Davis-Price, I don't see why you do that there. It seems like, I feel like every year the Niners just draft a running back and put it in their system, run it a little, and boom, they're gone. It's that simple. Like Elijah Mitchell last year, they drafted him and he just went crazy his rookie year, and now he's probably already going to get replaced. But the 49ers have an unparalleled just like backfield committee. They just have, it's like a revolving door in there. They got guys running in and out. It's that simple. Danny Gray, I like that pick. I like Danny Gray. Spencer Buford, offensive tackle. Decent pick. They drafted Brock Purdy? I guess get your backup quarterback, yeah. It's Trey Lance season, baby. 49ers, I like the Drake Jackson pick, but they really didn't do anything. They get a C for me. Pick 30. This was the Chiefs. This was the Chiefs' actual pick. They had 2 back-to-back, but I think they traded one to... They traded one to New England. Oh, no, they didn't trade one to New England. They traded with whoever traded with New England. They got Sky Moore in the second. What a steal. I thought they were going to get him with this pick. I thought they were going to get Sky Moore of this pick at the pick 30. But instead they got George Karlaftis. They got George Karlaftis in the first, and they traded up for Trent McDuffie. The Chiefs, you can tell just from the draft what franchises are just good franchises and what franchises are doomed to just be in this cycle of drafting bad players and hoping they're good. The Chiefs are one of these teams that, like the Steelers and Ravens, are just great at drafting, especially recently. Trent McDuffie, absolute steal. George Karlaftis, steal. Sky Moore, steal. Leo Chanel, steal. Literally, they got 4 players that will immediately start on this team and contribute. This is an easy A+, going to be the third of the A+ of the day for me, along with the Steelers and the Jets. Third A+. There's not much to say about it, to be honest. They just had a really good draft, and I'm a really big fan of the draft. Pick 31. We're almost done. Cincinnati Bengals. We got Daxton Hill, who I thought was one of the best players. Not one of the best players in the draft, but I think one of the most underrated players in the draft. He'll make an immediate impact on this team, like with Jesse Bates and some other people in the defense, like Mike Hilton. He's a very versatile player. You can put him in the nickel corner to learn behind Mike Hilton, but I think they'll play him at safety. Cam Taylor-Britt's a bit of a reach, but I do like the Zachary Carter pick, and I do like the Alex Wright pick. Oh no, that was Cleveland. Never mind. I like the Jeffrey Gunner pick. It's just an draft. I like the Daxton Hill. I would have liked a higher emphasis on the offensive line. Maybe get someone like Bernard Ryman. I would have liked to see them get Bernard Ryman in the first or second round, considering he fell all the way to the third. I'm not going to complain about the Daxton Hill pick. Overall, this draft gets a C from me. And that takes us to our final. This is the final one. This is the final team we're going to be discussing, and there's not much to say because it's the Los Angeles Rams, who I basically just said, "Fuck your picks." That's literally what they say. That's literally what Sean McVay said. They had like a Twitch live stream going on. While the draft is going on. They were just reacting to the picks. They looked like Twitch streamers out there. There's not much to say about this though. They had some late round picks. Kyron Williams, they drafted a running back out of Notre Dame. Logan Bruss, it's all right. We all know they weren't going to build through the draft, and they didn't. They didn't build through the draft, and they did exactly what I thought they would. They drafted depth. That's what they did. They already got their superstars by trading these picks, and now they can take this opportunity. They're Super Bowl champions. They can do whatever they want. They can take this opportunity to just get depth. So overall, I'm going to give it a C- just because they didn't do much, but they got depth, which is I think what a Super Bowl winning team needs. And with that, it is finally over. What a crazy draft. Honestly, I did not expect half of these things to happen. I know this video is lagging, like going on a while. I'm sorry. I wanted to keep it short, but I get crazy about the draft. If you guys really stayed till the end, I really appreciate it, though. I appreciate all your guys' loyal viewership. And yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for today. Check out the Instagram at NanoBlitz Podcast. I posted something earlier, or when you're seeing this, it'll be yesterday, but I posted my specific grades in the top 10, because I know I didn't give specific prospect grades in this, but if you want to see for the top 10, it's on there. I'm going to be posting a lot more draft content on there. And yeah, it's a long road to the offseason. Hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys next time.